Hi, I'm Chris Colabello, and you're listening to Red, White, and Blue Jays.
Swing and a drive.
Welcome to Red, White, and Blue Jays, the podcast home of Blue Jays Fans UK, a group connecting Blue Jays fans around the UK and beyond, and telling their story. And now, here's the host of Red, White, and Blue Jays, Steve Hunter.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Red, White and Blue Jays. A very warm welcome to you wherever you are, and a particular warm welcome to tonight's guest is Chris Colabello. Chris, thank you so much for safely spending some time with us. I can see you're driving in your car. Where exactly are you, sir?
I am in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I just got back from Regensburg, Germany, and this is like, just let's pretend you don't see me driving, and that I have my beautiful background with my Jays jersey in the background at my desk in my office. So we can pretend.
Yeah.
I can overlay that video. So, but yeah, I'm good. This is don't tell anybody, but it's not my first time zooming and driving at the same time.
Okay, as long as you're not getting in trouble, we're okay with that. Just be safe.
Nah,
So
we're
that's
good.
the main-
We're good.
Also, I just want to welcome to the pod tonight is a good friend of ours. Many of you would have seen Dave on our live pods. He was joining us tonight. Dave, good evening. How are you?
Evening. I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this.
Great. You'll pick up, Chris, that Dave has a slightly different accent to me.
I noticed, and I'm the only one that doesn't have an accent, so I'm a little bit upset. I can try my oldest snow if you want. I've lost a shoe.
You must have an Italian accent you can do.
No, I mean, I'd have to speak Italian. There's no accent. Like, I have to, devo parlare italiano, but that's, that's showing off at that point. I don't.
That is showing off. My Italian is very limited. I have in your honour put on my Euro 2020 Italian shirt for you tonight. So just wanted to put a little nod in there.
Nice.
Great. I mean, first time. I know you travel to Europe a lot. I know when we were trying to catch up and sort of nail you down to a time. When was the last time you were over this part of the world?
So it was right before the pandemic started. I was in Italy for a little coaches convention. I did one right at the end of 2019 and then one at the beginning of 2020. I played the European Cup and the Olympic qualifier in 19. So sporadically, I do get over there. It's just not as often as I care for it to be. Life has a tendency to impede, but it was kind of spur of the moment. The WBSC asked if we would do a little coaches clinic for the Czech Republic team. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say I was rooting for the other team. But it worked out great for Great Britain, but I actually had a good chat with a lot of people with the Great Britain team. I know Vance Worley, who's my old teammate, played for GB, and I talked to Brad Marcelino, the hitting coach, and certainly excited for you guys and get to play in a WBC, which is cool.
It's an amazing achievement by them. Obviously, first time in. Of course, we've got a Blue Jays representative in there in terms of Jaden Rudd as well. So I'm hoping to speak to him at some point just to hear about his experience. I mean, for you, obviously, you've born in the States, grew up in Italy. Where did the love of baseball start for you? Was that when you moved back to the States, or were you sort of shown the ropes, as it were, when you were living over in Rimini?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of both. My dad played in Rimini for like 9 years and ended up managing in San Marino in Italy. And the irony is when I was little, I think I knew I wanted to be a baseball player, right? That was, if you look at baby pictures of me, I had bat and ball in the crib. I was very much born to be a baseball player. The ironic part is, I think, my dad's a left-handed pitcher, which is weird because who's left-handed, first of all? And second of all, I'm the opposite, right? Right-handed hitter. I wanted nothing to do with pitching. My dad asked me when I was like 4, he goes, "You want to pitch or do you want to play the field?" And I was like, I'm obviously playing the field because the American League pitchers don't get to hit. So when I was all of 4 years old, I made a career path decision, which in retrospect was stupid because if I knew pitchers got to play as much golf as they did, I definitely would have been a pitcher. Life's just way easier. One every 5 days, like hang out, less stress, just way better. But no, I loved hitting. And the other ironic piece is I think I probably learned more about the game in Italy at a young age. Rimini is one of those towns that probably 6 in Italy that are just hotbeds for baseball, and the competition at the youth level was awesome. I got to play in 2 European Cups when I was 11 and 12 years old, so it all definitely led to my love for the game. And most of my heroes and guys that I looked up to were playing baseball in Italy at the time, and obviously getting to be in the dugout and be very close, intimate with those guys was meaningful to my development, my growth as a player, and just seeing how they went about their business, I think was really important.
Amazing. In terms of moving them from Italy across to the States, early career, a lot of time obviously in indie ball. How does a player's dreams and aspirations grow in the hope that one day of breaking through to the majors, and you're playing at a good level but not quite there yet? What was your mindset through those years when you were playing so much indie ball?
Yeah, I was just super naive and I guess stupid to believe that I could play independent ball and that was like a clear path to the big leagues. I don't think I ever wavered very much on the fact that I knew that I could play in the big leagues or that I believed I could play in the big leagues. I was also a realist, and this might sound kind of counterintuitive because I paid attention, right? Like I think my best skill set in baseball, and both in life and baseball, is the fact that I'm able to kind of make adjustments to what's going on to get the thing that I want to get or achieve the thing that I want to achieve. So when I got to indie ball, I was playing with a lot of guys that had been to the big leagues, AAA, AA, things like that. And I just kind of realized pretty quickly that I had the skill set that I needed. And then it was just going to be about, figuring out how to be consistent every day, figuring out how to take on the right approach. And then I was going to have to let the cards fall where they may, because the only thing that was really out of my control was whether I was going to get an opportunity or not. So for the first, I would say 3 years, I was just kind of like, okay, well, it's going to happen. And then after year 4, I would say that was my best year to that point. 2008 was really the year I kind of put it all together for the first time. And I thought something would come out of it, and it didn't. And that was when I kind of started not having doubts necessarily, but really being a little bit more cynical about whether I was going to get a chance or not. With full knowledge that I thought I had the capability to compete at that level. And it was just, again, going to be a matter of somebody deciding to give me a chance. So little did I know I would be the Van Wilder of the Can-Am League and play 7 years and then eventually make it. But I joke about it all the time. I was like, yeah, I just, took the scenic route, I guess.
Yeah.
So you obviously got your break with the Twins then, played minor league with them. How did you get from indie ball to playing with them? How did that come about?
Yeah, so it was really weird. My swing change is pretty well documented throughout the years. My business partner, best friend, consigliere, whatever you want to call him, Bobby Tewksbury, who threw the home run derby to Josh in 2015, and is pretty well known as like the swing guy in the world right now. He just kind of called me one day and said, "Hey, I think I figured out what the best hitters in the world all do the same." And I laughed at him and told him he was an idiot. And, basically in 30 words or less, I was like, all right, dude, you're my friend. But I mean, you hit 230, like you're going to want to shut up now. So we just argued probably like 7 or 8 different times when I'd go up to his facility and work out. And then eventually he showed me a clip of me, and he just straight knew how to get to me, right? Like just appealed to my inner narcissist. He showed me a clip of me hitting a ball into orbit, like one of the best homers I'd ever hit. I thought that, the ones that really resonate in your mind.
Yeah.
And he had introduced kind of some swing concepts to me that were different and unique at the time. And I wasn't really like bought in, I would say. But I knew the thing was that I was just at an inflection point in my career where I kind of knew there were some things that I didn't really do well, particularly hit the ball the opposite field, drive the ball to right. I was a very not one-dimensional hitter, but I could hit, but I couldn't do what the best guys in the world did, right? Like I couldn't leave over the right center field wall. And so I wasn't blind to the fact that I could be better. And, you know, the swing change thing was kind of what I needed, I guess. And then I had a really big 2011. It felt like I was playing a video game. I was named Baseball America's Independent Player of the Year. And, you know, at that point, I kind of convinced myself, like, that was really when I felt like I knew I belonged in the big leagues, or to have an opportunity with an affiliated team. And then, you know, kind of started getting some calls a little bit in the winter that year. And then the Twins thing was super strange because my agent, my current agent, he's been my agent my whole career. He called me, and this was like a day after one of my best friends that I played independent ball with, who was working an affiliate at the time. He said, "Hey, I sent out stuff to 29 teams. There was only one team I didn't have contacts for." And he said it was the Twins. That was the only team he didn't reach out to. And the next day, my agent called and he's like, "Hey, I got you a workout with the Twins." And I said, "What? Like, how is that possible?" But yeah, Minnesota was like willing to send somebody to work me out. And they did. And it was kind of even weird how that happened. But they sent somebody up. I brought my mentor, Rich Gedman, and my swing consigliere, Bobby Tewksbury, there, which was the smartest thing I've ever did, because the scout basically talked to Rich Gedman the whole time and didn't even watch me do anything. And Rich was like, "Yeah, he's good." And they were like, "All right, well, let's do it." So it kind of worked out. And then before I knew it, I was a Twin.
But what was that like? What was that, you know, where was your head at that moment that you'd been working towards that momentous day of actually being a big leaguer? I mean, massive celebrations, or did you just feel that was your destiny anyway?
Yeah, I think it was more like the destiny thing. And also, it's something that very few people probably know, is in 2006, I actually signed with the Tigers. So after my first indie ball, I signed with Detroit, you know, all good. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to play with the Tigers, and then they cut me at the end of spring training. So it was like I never really was part of it. When that happened, I kind of like just assumed that was how things went. I'd sign again at some point. And little did I know that, you know, that thing didn't happen every day like that. And but my only experience at that point was one where you get cut, basically, right? So I that was all I knew. I didn't know any better. I didn't know anything more than just, hey, come to camp, get released. So more than anything, I thought work was just starting, and I had to stick around. So, you know, fortunately, even though I didn't think I had a great camp, I had an okay camp. With like 5 days left, the double A manager came up to me, and this was per his request, farm director, and said, "Hey, we made the team so we can relax a little bit." And he did that, and that was kind of, you know, helped me, I think, just center myself a little bit, and really got me off to the races a little bit.
Yeah. We're just losing you slightly, but we'll press on and hope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it coming back?
Yeah, we can hear you. Video's a bit sketchy, but that's absolutely fine. We'll carry on and press through. So at the Twins, you got your first Grand Slam as well.
Yeah.
How did that happen in terms of the game? To be fair, I didn't look up exactly where in the game it happened, but I know it happened, you know, with the Twins. What was that moment like for you?
It was weird because I didn't feel like I was playing particularly well for Minnesota. And I'd put like so much pressure and stress on myself about really performing at a high level and doing things the way I was capable of, the way I knew I was capable of, let's put it that way. And I started out pretty poorly, and I wasn't really getting regular playing time. I was just, it was weird, right? Like, it was the first time in my life I won a day. And based on all that, I was like trying to force things to happen quite a bit. So finally, like, we trade Justin Morneau, and then like I got an opportunity to kind of like play regularly, and we were in Houston, and I was a little bit frustrated. I wasn't really swinging the bat the way I knew I was capable of. And I hit a homer early in the game against Houston, and then I came up late in the game, and I was coming off like a strikeout, and it was tied in the ninth, and it just happened to be hitting with the bases loaded. And before I knew it, I was just going to be aggressive, and I hit a homer almost the same spot. So it was my first 2-homer game, and I hit my first grand slam the same day. So really cool moment. Yeah, it was special for sure.
Brilliant. Did you get the ball?
Maybe.
Chris, come on. It's your big moment. Maybe.
Yeah, I'd have to check. So I have a bunch of balls with the little authenticity thing, the sticker, the certification sticker.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if the Grand Slam's one of them. You're going to make me check it now tonight when I get home, though. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go check. I'm going to go scan all the, the labels and see if my first career Grand Slam is in there. I think it might be my only Grand Slam, to be honest with you. I don't think I hit more than one in the big leagues, but the ones I know I have my first hit, I have my first homer, so those were definitely good enough for me.
They're definitely on the mantelpiece somewhere. Yeah. Very good.
I was going to say, are they out on display, or have you got them just in a box somewhere?
No, I have. So ironically, my wife was very adamant about me having a man cave, I was about when we bought our house, but she was very good about like helping me set it all up. And I, ironically enough, just cleaned my whole man cave and just made sure everything. I actually put my Blue Jays postseason jersey in a shadow box. I did a bunch of stuff. So now I'm actually disappointed I'm not doing this from home, so you guys don't get to see any of it. So
we'll have to do it again. Yeah. Oh, we can superimpose it on the back somehow.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
So in 2015 or the end of 2014, you were picked up by the Jays, claimed off waivers. What was that like then, moving? Obviously, you've been in an independent ball, but moving organization, were you excited moving there, or was it just like, right, we'll see how this works out? Or
yeah, super excited. I think again, as much as like I'm thankful to the Twins for the opportunity, but it never felt like it was home, right? I felt like an outsider, kind of, who I was the indie ball guy in Minnesota, let's put it that way. And I knew a lot of people in Toronto. Like I knew Gogo, I knew Pilar. I was pretty close to those guys. Donaldson had hit with me before because he was a Tewksbury guy too. So it felt like kind of right. And besides that, if you look at, and I said this, I think after the postseason run, I was doing an interview and I was telling people, like, in Toronto, like, we were allowed to be ourselves. Like, you had guys like Edwin and Hosey and Josh and RA and like a bunch of guys who really didn't have the most linear path to the big leagues. Like, even though they all became stars, like, they weren't like, hey, they got there and everything was hunky-dory. Like, they all had their own battle. So the beauty was we were all just kind of allowed to be ourselves, which was great. And I remember taking this like big deep breath when it happened. I remember getting the call from the GM of the Twins, and I was coming off a thumb injury too, which not too many people actually knew about, but it was just such a blessing, and I'll forever be a Blue Jay. I tell people that all the time. I am a Blue Jay through and through. Yeah, like I love Toronto, everything about it, and yeah, it was awesome. I literally remember that feeling. Like, it felt like 2 kettlebells fell off my shoulders when I got that call, because I needed a new environment, new scenery, and I could not have asked for a better place to go.
We would totally agree with that, of course. We're
biased here. We're all biased. Right?
Exactly. Totally. We had the pleasure. I had the pleasure of speaking to Gibby last week. We had him on, so that was entertaining. What was that?
How did you guys even understand anything he said? Because Gibby speaks like his own dialect. Yeah. Gibby's my favorite. He'd come to the mountain and be like, what did you say? You sound like the guy from The Waterboy, Gib. I don't understand anything you're saying.
Yeah. Well, he kept saying about having the sort of mother tongue and the motherland and all this sort of stuff. So I think he loved it. I think he really enjoyed it.
Gibby's the man. I love him. Gosh, even he was so awesome. What an unbelievable manager to play for.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was your impressions of coming to the Jays and him being in the helm and playing for him? What was that like?
So yeah, playing for Gibby was unbelievable. He everything that a player could want as a manager, right? He as much as he had that like country southern twang, like when it came time to have serious moments, like he was just so awesome, right? And the two things that really stand out for me were, one was when they sent me down at spring training. I walked in, I said to him and Alex, I said, listen, I know you guys have been talking about chemistry and culture a lot around here. I commend you guys on the group of guys that you've brought in, because it's really, you've done what you set out to do. And I said, I don't know how many games the team's going to win, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. And they said, it's great, and Gibby right away was like, we see you being a part of this. You're going to be up pretty quick. Just do your thing in AAA. And I said, good, because when I get there, I'm not leaving. And I cursed. I may or may not have cursed. I just cut it out. But he was like, that's awesome. I can't wait to see you. And so that was the first thing. Like he reassured me that I was in their plans. And then the second one was way more impactful. It was my second game. I'd gotten called up for the Yankees series right at the beginning of May. And my first game, I had a couple of hits, and I'm playing the next night, and I am 3 for 3 going into my last at bat in the 8th inning. And we're winning, like, I want to say the score was like 6-2. And I go over to the helmet rack to get my stuff, my shin guard, my helmet, my bat. And he turns to me, like the inning hadn't started yet, and he goes, "Hey, stay greedy right here, kid." And I just kind of turned and looked at him, and I first of all, like, and it meant so much to me because, number one, like, why does John Gibbons care if I get my 4th hit or not? Like, we're going to win the game pretty much. It's pretty much over. But even the fact that he knew I was 3 for 3, and it would be a situation where I could very easily give an at bat away and not think twice of it. And it meant so much to me, because then I went out on deck and I was taking that at bat as much for him as I was for myself. And that's the kind of guy he is and was. And I love him forever. Thankful to have him. And I need to catch up with him, so I'm going to give him a call. I got to see DeMarlo Hale and talk to Tim Leeper recently. So
great.
I want to stay in touch with all those guys.
Yeah. And of course, he's taking social media by storm at the moment.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Whoever thought?
Well, I think, like, it's funny. I saw like Roger Clemens and Pudge Rodriguez got on social media like 8 months ago, maybe. So maybe he hired the same guy. I don't.
I don't know whether. I think his daughter's helping him out. To be fair, from what he was telling me.
I'm willing to bet Gibby has no idea what a tweet is. If I had to guess, he probably calls it a Twitter. He's like, oh, I gotta send a Twitter. Beautiful. He's beautiful. I love him.
Okay, so 2015, obviously at the deadline, the Jays went all in. Did the team have any sort of knowledge of that was coming, or they were going to try and go for these guys, or was it just sprung on you as much as us?
Well, I think it was time, right? Like, I think everybody could kind of sense it that year. They hadn't gone for it the year before when I wasn't there, when they had a chance. And I know it was like a topic of conversation at times. But you could tell something special was kind of brewing. Even though we were 7 games back at the break, or at the deadline, sorry. We knew we had the Yankees a bunch. We knew we handled the Yankees pretty well. And it was ours to take. Like, it was palpable in the clubhouse every day. Like, we knew we were going to just go beat people's doors off. Like, it didn't matter that we were 7 games back, and we knew if we were a couple pieces away. Obviously, like, the first one that came in was the trade for Tulo, and no offense to Jose Reyes. I love Jose Reyes. He was a great teammate. I think a wonderful player, obviously very accomplished. But by getting Tulo, like, you just solidified your middle infield, right? Because now you're looking at just as good of an offensive player, if not better than Jose, which is kind of a disservice to him because he was obviously wonderful in his role. But he had scuffled a little bit defensively, and when you go get Tulo, you're talking about the ball gets hit to shortstop, it's an automatic out. So that was obviously a sign to us that we were, we were all in. And then, the rumors swirled around Price the whole time. And don't discount the fact that we got LaTroy, who was such a wonderful leader in the Tulo trade and just a great guy to have around, had experience, everything. Like, and then Mark Lowe, Price, and Ben Revere just kind of were like all icing on the cake. And Price being the kind of, the sexier of the pieces, because he was the best pitcher in baseball at the time.
Sure.
So, Osuna and I were doing an autograph signing the morning we got him, and people kept coming up to us. They're like, "We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him." I'm like, it's above my pay grade. Like, your guess is as good as mine. And then him and I walked in the clubhouse together because we came from Yonge Street Mall, and we walked in and they were clearing out his locker. And for the guys that were there, we kind of just looked at each other and we're like, "It's on, boys." It's on.
I was just going to say, as part of that, then, like, on the flip side, obviously all these guys come in and they had to clear roster space, and like Danny Valencia was having a great season and they had to let him go. How strange was that feeling?
Yeah, the irony was that, like, when we got Revere, I thought it was me because I had an option left. So, like, I I kind of went up to Danny and the night before Ben showed up, and I was like, you look around, you do the math, you're like, so, like, I'm definitely getting sent down tomorrow. And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, it'll be Carrera, or it'll be," and I was like, "Well, Carrera already has to go with the LaTroy and Mark Lowe thing. And then, Price is another one, and we knew a pitcher was going to go down. But then it just, the math on it, position player, when we got Revy, I was like, "It's me." And Danny kind of looks, he's like, "Yep, it's you." And I was like, it sucks. But, it would have been, I think, relatively short had I gone down. But, Danny was obviously having a great year. I've known him for a long time. I just talked to him while I was over in Europe. And, I think I probably just, I don't know, a little bit more fit into the kind of the culture we had and the chemistry. Like, it helps that I speak Spanish and was close with a lot of Latin guys. And I was blessed and fortunate that they made the decisions they did. I had a chance to talk to Alex about it later on after the season at the Boston Baseball Writers Dinner, and I thanked them and Tony LaCava and the rest of the front office. And I said, I can only imagine how difficult it was. And it speaks volumes of the gentlemen that I mentioned: Gibby, DeMarlo, Tim Leeper, Louis Rivera, all the front office guys that I built really strong relationships with. So blessed and fortunate.
Yeah, it was a great setup and lots of great memories. Obviously, going through 2015, we come to what is probably one of the most iconic games in baseball, which you were part of. How extraordinary event was that Game 5 for you?
I mean, indescribable. Scale of 1 to 10, like a 483 or something like that. Literally, I mean, like, talk about like the perfect storm of events, right? You go down 2-0. Even the build up to it, right? Like, we went down, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard the story, but we're down 2-0. We're flying to Texas, and we have a workout day, and Bautista closes all the doors, and he's like, "Hey, we're having a meeting." And I was like, "Okay." And we never had meetings, right? And all of a sudden, Kawasaki gets up in front of the room and does a whole speech in Japanese. Like, nobody understood a freaking word. And we were like laughing. We're just dying. It was unbelievable. And like, "Yo, Shigoto, gambatte!" Like, wait, what? This is awesome. But that was kind of who we were. That was our persona. Like, we weren't very intimidated by anything. We knew that we had enough firepower to get it done. Like, the challenge when you get down to, a deciding game for the other team is you got to be perfect, right? And you just leave yourself much less margin for error. And I think we felt pretty good about what we had for matchups. Like, we knew Marco had been really, really good that second half that year. So the key was winning the first one. And then, like, if you look through that whole game, Game 3 was like, we had traffic on the bases. I think we grounded into like 6 double plays, with the last of which was mine when I was hit with the bases loaded. and I had like a 10 or 11 pitch at bat, and I hit an absolute rocket, and Mitch Moreland was playing like second base basically instead of first, and it was right at him, and he turned a double play, and it was like kind of deflating, but we were ahead in the game already. We were up 2-0, and it felt like it should have been 10-0. And then Tulo hit the big 3-run homer, and that was kind of like the okay, let go moment. You know, we knew we were going to match up well against Holland the next day. We just obviously, if we could get the lead, we knew we were in good shape. And we did, and then we had David in the bullpen too. And you get to game 5, and then anything could happen. So the whole lead up with the inning and the whole game, it was just, I've never played in a game that was so, it just felt like you were so engaged in every pitch, right? I've never been that emotionally vested in a baseball game. And the crowd, the moment, the ball before, the 3 errors, the chew play, like all of it was just, it's like you can't even make it up, you know. Sure. It was pretty incredible. And then to have Jose be the guy, like, and I say this truthfully when I tell people, I'm like, I would have rather he hit the homer than me hit the homer, just because he epitomized everything that was Blue Jays baseball, and he was the Blue Jays, right? Like it was his moment, and it's amazing that, you know, when you start thinking about fate and the stars aligning, like that's the type of stuff you think about. So
yeah, I mean, I think whoever watched that game, and obviously for guys like us, it was 2:30 in the morning or something when all that started unfolding, and I was watching it with my eldest daughter that evening. Or that night, and you know, when Russell threw the ball back and that whole crazy play and the debate and all the stuff, and I sort of reflected on it a little bit afterwards now, because obviously we had the commentary from the TV broadcasters, but of course, you know, the crowd in the stadium, of course, are not getting any of that dialogue in terms of chewing over, is the ball live, is it not live, you know, what's happening. And it was getting pretty intense in there. I mean, did you ever sense we might even be taken off the field of play at any point during that whole episode?
Yeah, so I have a couple like quirky things that happened, and I'm definitely gonna curse. You can edit it out if you want. I think it makes the story better. So the first thing was, like, from my vantage point, it looked like Chu was blocking me because I was at first, right? And so when I saw the ball trickling out to third, I assumed that Russell had kind of gone to throw it, and then he like stopped because he saw his hands, and then the ball just came out. So I was like, oh shit, no. But then I saw Dale Scott come out right away and like wave his hands to blow the play dead. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, like what just happened? But thank God it's not going to be the run that decides the division series. And at that point, like, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. And I think it became clear to me at one point that the ball hit the bat. So now Bannister comes out to argue. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, like, this fucking guy's really going to argue this call? Like, geez, like, come on, dude. Like, you don't want that to, like, even if you're on the other team, you don't want that to be the run to win the game. You're like, let us earn it. And maybe that's just bias, like me being a, you know, Blue Jay and him being on the other side with 50, 60,000 screaming fans ready to kill him, but whatever. So now, like, they changed the call, and I see him do this little fist pump, and I'm like, you fucking asshole, like, Jesus, you know, come on. I'm just like cursing under my breath, and Gibby comes out, loses his mind, and at that point, like, the infielders kind of congregate in the middle, stuff starts flying on the field, and you're sitting there going like, yeah, there's a pretty good chance somebody's going to get hit with something, or like they're going to pull us off the field. And now Tulo was absolutely screaming at Marvin Hudson, like, Marvin, this bullshit, blah, 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 like screaming. And I can't find Donaldson anywhere. Like, I have no idea where Donaldson is. And I'm like, did Donaldson get ejected? I'm like, I got to stop this. Like, if Donaldson got ejected too, like, and we're going to lose Tulo too, like, this can't happen, right? So I stopped Tulo for a second, and he was just going ham. And I look at Marvin Hudson. I go, Marvin, and just in this demeanor, I was like, Marvin, I don't know if you know this, but you're going to get murdered when you leave the stadium tonight. And he's like, and he goes, wouldn't be the first time, Chris. And I go, Marvin, like, I don't think you understand. they're actually going to fucking slit your throat. And I was like, they're going to kill you. And he was like a little bit scared at that point. And I think it deflected from Tulo, like just still yelling. And thankfully, nobody got thrown out. Donaldson, I think, just went to the bathroom or something. Like he was in the dugout, and I found him later. And I was like, well, he didn't get ejected. But, yeah, it was pretty intense. Like I don't think we ever felt in danger. Most of the stuff was coming on the sides, and we had kind of all gotten in the middle. Fifth deck, like you'd have to have a bazooka to hit us in the middle infield.
Yeah,
so like
that would be a good throw.
You know,
Yeah.
I was more scared for the people in the stands because obviously like it's really high in Rogers Center, but certainly again, and like that just goes to show you how like the guy in the last row of the stadium was emotionally charged. So imagine what it was like down on the field, you know.
Yeah, it was incredible scenes. Of course, there was the slight confusion with Edwin in terms of trying to calm down everybody, and that just seemed to, add to the moment. And
no, I gotta put my 2 cents in here. I don't think Dyson actually even knew what Edwin was doing. Like people like Harold and Verducci were talking about on the broadcast, and they were like, "Oh, he thinks he's showing him up." Dyson's a weird cat. Don't tell anybody I said that. Like this dude, he's strange, and like there were like a lot of things going through his body, and he just gave up like a pretty big homer, obviously, like not knowing what to do. And I think he just wanted to say something about Batista's bat flip. Like there was no part of me that actually believed that he thought Edwin was trying to rile the crowd up or that he was even paying attention to what Edwin was doing. So like, I don't think it was confusion. I think it was like a weird cat who was really pissed off and like wanted to get a word in. Yeah. And he chose to do it with Edwin because Edwin was like, and he was so, like, and you could tell, like, there was nobody was thinking like Edwin's trying to rile everybody up, like throw more shit, let's go. Like,
it's great acting, by the way. And if you're just listening to the audio, you need to watch the YouTube clip of Chris.
That's all. I'm just, I have a face for radio, but mannerisms for TV. Yes,
totally.
See when all this was happening, so all that's happening, and then at the bottom of the inning, when you guys are batting and these errors start happening, at what point is there was there a flick, a switch flicked in your mind that you suddenly think we're going to do this here?
Yeah, like the first one, you're just like, okay, there's life, right? Like with a runner on first, nobody out, you're not like nothing like out of the ordinary happened. Now, when Moreland choked the second one, I was like, oh boy, it's on. And if you watch my favorite thing to watch is dugout reactions and crowd reactions after plays. And I've probably watched the game 100,000 times already in my life. So I could name everything that everybody's doing at any given moment, including the fans in the stands that are like hugging, like after the homer. But after the second one, when Moreland choked the throw, is when I started slamming the railing because I used to sit on the Gatorade coolers in the middle, like before I had to get ready to hit. And that was when you're like, okay, now we got first and second. We're probably going to bunt with go-go. And I just kept saying, like, they're going to put the wheel on, which nobody ever does in the big leagues until it matters, right? So I was like, go, just don't bunt it too hard because Adrian Beltre, like, could be playing left-handed and they'll get the out at third, right? Because that's how good a third baseman he is. And when Andrews dropped that ball, I was like, oh, my God, this is meant to be. Like, right? Like, it was like the baseball gods didn't want us to lose the game, so they gave us this opportunity. And now you still have to go execute, right? And, Revy hit into the force out. Pompey made the great slide at home. And I think the moment that I really, like, was mad at Bannister was when he came to argue that one. Because I was, like, mad at him already once. I was like, dude, you're going to argue about that play? And now you're going to argue about this play? Like, go sit down, man. Like, let us play the game and stop trying to, like, beg for outs. Mm-hmm. And all I was thinking to myself was I really, really hope Donaldson doesn't hit into a double play because the sinker baller was a way better matchup for Hosey. And like Hose and I had talked about Dyson 2 or 3 nights before. Like this, Hosey loves sinker ballers. It could be 133 miles an hour. It doesn't matter. Where Josh like really wants more like 4-seam out over the plate type guys. So I'm just like, Josh, just don't ground in a double play. And then obviously he hits like a chicken nugget or whatever. Like I call it a chicken nugget because he like got sawed off on a 2-0 fastball. Like that's how much Dyson's ball ran. And it just like they were playing infield in, which even that was weird because I thought they should have been halfway in the middle, and the ball falls, and then he catches it on one hop and gets the force out at second tree. Like how did the like what? How are we first and third with the run in here? Like it was so strange because there's no scenario in which that ball falls, and it's usually not like everybody advances, right? So for them to get an out on that play was weird. But at that moment, you're like, at least we're tied, you know. At least we like the runs back. So no matter what happens, like it's like no harm, no foul from the inning before. And then you know, I saw Jose's first swing and I was like, he's on him, dude. Like he's got him. And I was like in the dugout, like, oh my God, he's gonna hit something really hard. He's gonna hit it hard. And then yeah, he hit something hard.
He did it.
He sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's watching the ball, not the bat.
Yeah, so the bat because I knew what was going to happen. I didn't know he was going to hit a homer, but like I watched the ball for a second just to make sure, and then I turned right back to him, and I was standing there with my hands up in the air. Everything else I did was awkward. The only thing I knew to do was turn to look at him to see his reaction. And I was standing there, and I was like, "Oh my God, he just threw the bat into orbit!" But nobody cares.
Yeah. It was
Stroman dunked on me. Go watch the Stroman. Like literally, Price was like banging on my helmet, and then Stroman dunked on me first, and then Price was like hitting my helmet. And I was like, man, after the game, I had two things wrong with me. My neck was hurting, and also my hip was hurting. And just I'm gonna sell myself down the river here. I fell twice in that game. One was in my at bat. I had an at bat against Hamels in like the fifth inning. I was sitting changeup, and he threw me a fastball. And I took what looked like a really hard swing, but it was just because thought I was swinging at a changeup, and I swung at a fastball, and I fell, and I was like, oh, it's on my Instagram. You can watch it. And then the second one was when I was coming out of the dugout because I came out in the ninth or eighth inning or whatever it was after I got the most innocuous, meaningless hit of my career. Like Edwin hit the little slow roller out to third base, and then I hit a base hit, and I was like, yeah, my second hit, but nobody cares because Jose just hit a ball to Guam, and it's the only thing that matters. And like, yeah, I was surprised people even were cheering. I was like, oh, boo, a single. Like, wow, that's terrible.
Man, it's certainly the most intense sporting moment I think I've ever watched. And, you know, there's been some great things over the years that we've watched in all sorts of sports, but it's certainly the thing, particularly obviously as a Jays fan, I look back in terms of my watching history. I first came and saw the Jays in '94, so I just missed out on the 2 World Series. So thank you so much for playing a part in what was a memorable night for so many fans. That's
awesome. It was an honor, man. Like I'm blessed, grateful, thankful. It was so cool. In retro, like looking back on it, I just wish we had completed it because we knew. I think it's hard to say this, right? Like, and you don't want to sound like kind of the asshole that is like, oh yeah, we were the better team that lost to Kansas City. But like, we knew whoever was going to win that series. And ironically enough, I was just with Jeremy Guthrie at the thing that I did in Germany. And I had him sign a ball for me because I have like 6 spots in my like little baseball case. And he signed it 2015 AL champs, which like really, dude, like really, like you're going to put that there, just stab, twist, right? But they were so pesky. And like, honestly, there was so much emotion in that first series that it felt like we kind of like took a deep breath for the first 2 games of the next series. And this is what playoff experience, I think, does for teams like them having been there the year before. They knew they like couldn't come off the gas, especially after they got the break to beat Houston. And kudos to them for that. Like, I think Alcides Escobar went like 9 for 4 in that whole series. Like, he had 1 billion hits. Like, it was incredible. Like, he didn't miss the barrel. And at one point I was like, can we just mix in like a ball off the backstop for the first pitch of the game so that he doesn't hit a triple? But yeah, they you know, it would have been magical to like kind of finish it. And I think when you think about fate and like those moments, you're like, man, we were supposed to win that next series. We just forgot. Like, I think, but kudos to them. They earned it. And I think they didn't take it. They didn't hesitate, you know, and, you know, play here, the ball falling in the game 2 that Yeah, it kind of sucks. That would have been the only thing that could have made it better. But I'm again still
Yeah,
super thankful that I got to experience it.
yeah, it was
That
amazing.
that fan that reached in from right field and grabbed that ball, turned a double into a home run. He still haunts my dreams every night.
Yeah, what an asshole, huh? Like him and Jeffrey Mayer, like, yeah. The funny thing is, like, I think it was Laz Diaz was the umpire, and I was like, Laz, what are you looking at? Like, he just definitely reached over, and then they went to the replay, and it was like, oh yeah.
Yes.
I was like, what am I watching that nobody else is seeing? You know, and not to say that play makes the difference. Like
Yeah.
they just that team didn't stop. Like Kansas City they didn't have any stop. And I'll take you one further. We went to the last day of the regular season with a chance to get home field advantage, and one of the things I love about Gibby is his loyalty and the things he does for players. And I wouldn't do this any differently, but we tried to get Burles to 200 innings, and we ended up losing the last game of the regular season where we could have had home field. And I think that, if you knew you were going to play Kansas City, like probably the toughest place to play out of all of them. Like Houston, you don't mind. Texas, you don't mind. Even Yankee Stadium, like it's open, and like Kansas City is just so loud, and they were the team that was, I think, the most primed to take advantage of that situation because of having played in the last game the year before. So you wish you could go back to game 162 and figure out a way to win it so that you could have had home field. But I when you say you've had nightmares and you've thought about a lot of stuff, like I may or may not have like thought about every scenario possible.
Yeah. So then moving on from 2015, obviously 2016 wasn't quite going to plan. So
Yeah,
as far as I understand
that
it,
sucked. Yeah.
yeah. So you come into spring training early, do your routine drugs test, and I'm assuming then you're assuming everything's fine. And then how long does that take for that to come back? And what, like, who tells you your results and
Yeah, so
everything?
I like literally drug tests for me were like a Tuesday at the office. Like I never thought twice about them. They were they were non-factors in my life because I knew I was out of anybody. And you can ask guys that I talked about with this. Pilar and I had hundreds of conversations about this stuff. Like you always like worry when you do a P test, but like at the end of the day, like I knew I wasn't putting anything in my body. But because I knew the rules and how stringent they were toward like what in the event that something does show up on your test, like I was so careful. Like I'm telling you, like I had trouble like even buying a grocery that like I had never had before. I was like at the Players Association meetings that winter, I raised my hand in the drug meeting and I was like, "Hey, are we allowed to eat protein Cheerios?" And everybody in the room kind of laughed at me. And Curtis Granderson and I then ended up talking about it for like 2.5 hours because I was like, as an athlete, like they tell you to be responsible, and anybody that talks to me for more than 5 minutes, I think, realizes that I'm not stupid and that I care a lot about my career and my reputation, my integrity, my character. So yeah, I went in the drug test and just didn't think twice about it. Was just ready to go and have a big camp and build off of what I had done the year before. And then like it was probably, I want to say like 3 weeks later, I think it was 3.5 weeks to the day. Because I did the drug test on like February 12th or something like that, pitchers and catchers. And I got a call, and I guess it was maybe a full month. March 11th was the day that I found out. And I was telling this story a couple days ago. It was the first time in my major league career that I left the stadium before the game ended. So I wasn't playing that day, and obviously, like I know I'm going to make the team this year, so I'm only playing the front end of games, and if I'm not playing, I just get to leave. But I still like I didn't know how to leave. Like it was just not a thing that I did. So I would always stay and like work out, watch the game a little bit or whatever. And I went to lunch with my agent. So we something that most people don't really know. We were talking about an extension with the team. Like I was full send. I want to be a Blue Jay for life. I will take a hometown discount or whatever. Not that a 31-year-old independent ball player should be thinking about discounts because any guaranteed money that I could have made in my career would have been spectacular. But certainly, had I played that year out and had a similar year and gone to arbitration, I would have made some decent money. But I told my agent, I said, look, ask them if they'll do an extension, something like in the neighborhood of 3-8, 4-11, something like that, and just buy out my ARB years because I want to stay. So we were at lunch talking about the meeting that he had that morning, and I ordered like one of everything on the menu because why not? And I was excited to hear what he had to say. And I literally just ordered like 5 appetizers, and it was just me and my agent. And I get this phone call from New York, and I answered the phone in a weird voice because I didn't recognize the number, and I never like answer phone numbers that I don't recognize. And I was like, yes, hello. And it happened to be Bob Lenahan from the Players Association. And he told me I had tested positive for a steroid. And I thought he was joking. Like, I thought it was like an April Fool's joke. And I handed the phone to my agent, and I said, dude, he's like, what? And we literally, like, all the food I just ordered, we didn't eat any of it. I literally walked outside. I was like pacing in the parking lot. I was like, this is impossible. Like, what are we talking about? And now, like, my agent is standing there like, what did you do? And I'm like, dude, I didn't take anything. Like, I swear to you, the only stuff I took was for my team. And even that took convincing, right? Like, even convincing my agent, because like who's ever tested positive before that hasn't done it? Or like, you hear the standard company line. It's like, I didn't do it. Like, we start going into the research of the drug, and obviously, like, I'm devastated. Like, I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't see straight, never mind play baseball. And I'm like literally like doing all the research I can on this drug, this metabolite. I'm learning entirely too much about analytical chemistry at the time. And the next 5.5 weeks until when I got suspended were just miserable. I couldn't really tell anybody on the team. And finally, I had to start telling some guys because I'm a hard on my sleeve guy, and everybody could tell something was wrong. I basically like couldn't hit anymore. This all leads up to me meeting with Tony Clark. And I said to Tony, like 3 days before I got suspended, I was like, Tony, I'm going to tell you 2 really important things. I said, number 1, if this can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. I said, number 2, I don't know how to stop this from happening again. Like, I have no idea how to make it not happen the next time. Like, meaning still don't have any idea where it came from. And over the last 7 years, basically, both things that I said to Tony pretty much played themselves out. 23 guys have been suspended for the same thing. To a man, they've all thrown their hands up in the air and have no idea where it came from. Many of those players have tested positive anywhere from 1 to 30, 50, 80 times for the same thing. Basically, their testing profiles have broken the research that was available from what created this test. And because of that, leagues like the UFC, NASCAR, if you read Ken Rosenthal's article, and now MLB have fundamentally like changed their policy on what this test would represent. So UFC is no longer sanctioning players or athletes. NASCAR removed a sanction from a player or a pit crew member that had one. It just was shitty. Let's put it that way.
And so you've obviously been fighting that and stuff and helping these other players, and I've seen you talking about that before now. Does that feel like a moral victory now that they've removed that? Or is it just still really bitter in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, look, it'll never go away, right? Like, I'll never not think of what if and what should have happened. And like, more than anything else, like, the thing that sucks is I didn't get to play. Like, all I ever want to do is play. I told my dad when I was 3, I said, I want to play. Like, I love baseball. Like, I love it. I love the chess match. I love hitting. I love having a bat in my hand. I'm a better hitter today than I've ever been in my life. I still take at bats with college guys and pro guys. And like, I'm more equipped to be a good hitter now because I've built more armor to the emotional stuff, to the mental stuff than I ever have had in my life. physically I'm in the best shape I've ever been in because my wife's making me eat like turkey burgers and green beans and shit like that. So she's doing like bikini contests. So now I'm like actually an athlete, which is crazy because when I played, I just ate buffalo chicken and whatever else was in front of me. So that's the part that sucks. Like from the standpoint of like, I've always wanted to be somebody that helped. Like I always wanted to help the next guy. Paying it forward to the next generation has been something that's meant a lot to me. And I think honestly, like it's the thing that keeps me going. Like I have a bunch of college guys that are in my like little circle, and I had people that did it for me, and I want to do that for them. It's where I find joy. It's selfish because like I find joy in helping people. So like, does it make me feel better? No, not like when it comes out, it's like, oh, like you feel vindicated? No, like the only thing that would make me feel vindicated is if we could go back in time and I could go play. And that was something that I said to them before. And not to mention, like I can tell as many of these stories as I want, and the rules can change as much as they want, or people can fix it as much as they want. And there's still people that are going to call me a cheater and say that I'm an asshole. So like once that got put in full front row and center, unless you pay attention after, like these people think I'm a cheater. And like, because of that, it's taken away opportunities outside of baseball, like whether it be in media or whatever. And not to mention, like I could have had a nice career and still be playing to this point. And I think I'm not because of it. 38, they tell me 38's the new 25. So, no, but I mean, honestly, like I'm more at peace with it. Like I saw like, the quote that I usually reference is, if you watch the 30 for 30 on the Duke lacrosse kids, they asked one of the parents, they said, is the wound healed? And the parent said a great line: the wound is healed, but the scar's still there. Like the scar will never go away. So, I feel I'm not in depression, in clinical depression like I used to be. Like I went into clinical depression. I had to go see a psychiatrist. I had to deal with, depression, anxiety for like a year and a half. Not that it like overtook my life or it, I was ever borderline suicidal, but it was tough to deal with because what happened for me was everything that I had always loved, like the game that I loved my whole life, the thing that was my escape from reality, now became the thing that reminded me of everything that was bad in my life. So, that part sucked, but I've gotten past that part of it. So, I mean, people say things happen for a reason. I still don't know what the reason is, but I would have loved to have continued to play and continued to make an impact on the game. And I think I had a lot left to offer. I think offensively, I was just really establishing that I was one of the better hitters in the American League, and something that I believed my whole life. So, that's the part that sucks.
Yeah. Difficult memory, certainly. And I do remember you doing the interview with Jamie Campbell. I can't remember how soon after the whole event sort of unfolded, and just remembering how much of a painful watch that was, just watching you in terms of having to come to terms with that news, and at that point in time, I guess you just were still unraveling,
so bad. I was letting it all out.
Yeah.
The production team in the room. Jamie had asked me, he's like, we'll probably do 2 5-minute segments. I said, it's not long enough when I tell you all the stuff that I have to tell you. And I picked Jamie specifically because Jamie had gone on an appearance or multiple appearances with me in that off season. And Jamie saw how diligent I was. Like one time it was me, him, and Pilar, and I wouldn't let Kevin get the protein powder at like a random smoothie shop. And I'll never forget, like Jamie and Kevin sat and asked me how serious I was taking that. And I was like, and part of that was, and I had built a friendship with Jamie, and I knew I could trust him. Right. And I'm still close with him to this day. But I remember after the interview, we sat in the room for like, I don't know, 2 hours probably. And when I got done, the production team said to me, like, either you took acting classes or you're telling the truth. And I was like, well, I haven't had time for acting class in my life. So, it was hard. It was, and then you read shit online where people are like, oh, those are fake tears. I was like, yeah, that's what they were. They were fake. Yeah, they were clearly. And I think that's the part like that I've gotten over, is like not reading into some idiot from Iowa that doesn't know me from Adam, like
Sure.
making some jackass comment. Those stung for a long time, because no matter how much positive people are saying, you only notice the negative comments, right? Like my wife had to stop posting on our dog's Instagram page, and I have the most handsome dog ever. Like, Clutch is spectacularly handsome, and the world needs to see more of Clutch. But she stopped posting on his Instagram because people were writing stuff like, cheater or whatever, and just doing people things,
Yep.
Chris, we really appreciate your time. We said 45 minutes, and I think we've just gone over an hour.
Well, it's my fault. The technical difficulties really put a damper on.
Internet coverage in the States obviously is not quite as strong as it should be.
Yeah.
But
I've learned a lesson. Don't drive and podcast at the same time.
There's probably something in that. Really do appreciate your time, and just, I know how busy you are traveling backwards and forwards between the States and Europe and so on, and really thrilled to be able to catch up with you and to talk through the key moments of your career, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's always just really insightful to hear it from the person, rather than hearing it from, as we do as fans, from multiple sources. So we really appreciate your honesty and openness with us.
It was a pleasure, and continued success, and thank you for doing what you guys do, especially in the UK, and being Jays fans, man. That's awesome. I'm super. I'm humbled and honored every time somebody asks me to do these things, and happy to storytell. I don't know if you noticed, but I like talking. So
yeah, I had heard that about you.
Yeah, I have a tendency to.
It's brilliant. No, we love that. We love the stories, and I think it brings to life what we watch as fans, in terms of, particularly, obviously, looking back over the sort of 2015 year, particularly. And we're watching it but to hear it from your side of the fence and understanding what the dynamic is, and it's the stuff we wouldn't normally get access to. And I think the
Kawasaki Japanese meeting, like,
totally,
yeah,
absolutely. How is the Japanese?
Oh, it's just I'm working on mine. He taught me how to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each Nissan Shi.
Okay.
So
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm trying to become quadlingual.
Yeah. So what's in the bank? You obviously English, Italian, Spanish. You said, and Japanese number 4, is it?
Yeah. I'm very non-conversational and at like 14 words, but we can count that, right? Like,
sure. Yeah.
I would never understand anything beyond each Nissan Shigo and arigato gozaimasu.
We loved him.
Trying to work on my English.
Yeah. But you guys have great accents. That counts as like 10 languages. Like, that's awesome. I mean, I'd do anything if I had a British accent, I'd count that as a new language. So.
Well, you can come over and we can give you some lessons or something like that when you're next over this way.
That's the plan.
Brilliant.
So I'm coming.
Great.
All
Chris,
right, guys.
Thanks so much for your time. We'll speak to you soon. Take care now.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Take care. Sounds
Bye-bye.
good. See you guys.
Bye.
The Red, White, and Blue Jays podcast is a production of Blue Jays Fans UK. If you've got a Blue Jays story to share, let us know. Email us at bluejaysfansuk@gmail.com. And follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Blue Jays Fans UK. I'm your announcer, Jim Langton. Thanks for listening.